What's up everyone, and welcome to the channel. So in today's video, I want to go over the next generation, the all-new 4th generation for the Toyota Tacoma. So behind me is the last year model for the 3rd gen. This is a 2023 TRD Pro, which I've had for the week. I've made a lot of content surrounding it. If you are new to our channel, I currently own a 17 TRD off-road. I owned a 2007 before that as well. So needless to say, I love the Tacoma platform. I am super excited for the 4th generation. So I'm going to go over some speculation information in today's video. I will be making a follow-up video once we have some more concrete information and there's been more leaks about how the new 4th generation Tacoma will look and what it's going to be powered by. So keep in mind today, everything is just some information that I've been seeing from multiple sources, pulling together as much info as I can to go over the entire 4th generation Tacoma and what it's hopefully going to have. But let's start off with when we might see an actual pre-production model for the 4th generation Tacoma. We might see that be unveiled the first week of April 2023. Now this doesn't mean it's going to be available at dealers. You're not going to be able to really see it unless you go to one of those events, but that is hopefully going to be what the 4th gen Tacoma will look like. And again, pre-production models don't always look like the production spec. So there's going to be some similarities, some differences with that actual pre-production unit that we'll be able to view. So I hope it's going to be this year. That could either mean that we'll see production units the end of 2023 or possibly the following year, so 2024, that we will see this Tacoma. I hope it's a 2024 and not a 2025 because for me, I don't want to wait that long for it to be unveiled. Now, about a year ago, the Tacoma EV was a pre-production unit that was unveiled, and a lot of people are speculating that the Tacoma could look very similar to that. And I'll go over all the design elements here in just a second, but it's pretty cool to see that actual unit and what the Tacoma could possibly look like. I think it almost looks like a baby Tundra in a sense, and again, we'll get to that here. And then I also just wanted to touch briefly on this one point or one statistic. This is factual. In 2022 alone, Toyota sold 237,000 Toyota Tacomas. That was 150,000 more units than the competition or the next best seller. So the Toyota Tacoma is by far the most popular midsize platform and truck that is currently available in the United States. It's also, right now, the only midsize truck to offer a manual transmission. And so I really hope that Toyota gives the customers, the Toyota Tacoma enthusiasts, what they are looking for in this 4th generation Tacoma. I don't want them to do something where people are going to be more sought after for the 3rd gens and the 4th gen was just yesterday's news. I want it to be that truck that people will want to trade in their 3rd gen. Not everyone will do that, of course, but I want it to be where, dang, I think I need to work on getting that 4th gen because it looks great, it drives great, performs great, it's good off-road, towing, all of those factors that we all love for the Toyota Tacoma. So I really hope Toyota listens to their customers and gives us the next year generation model that we're all looking for. So let's move on to the exterior styling now elements for what we think the 4th generation Tacoma will look like. So I'm going to start up front with this rendering that I have on the screen. Let's start off with the grille. Now in this picture, it looks like a baby Tundra. It also looks similar to the 5th generation Toyota 4Runner. So it has that kind of combination vibe between both of those. As you can tell with this 23 here, we have the upper grille, small cutout underneath that. You can see the surround for the grille and then some body work in the front bumper valance. So this is a completely different style, tying in everything with this bumper valance all as one piece. Now in this picture too, there's also some lights. There's also a bar underneath, a light bar underneath the Toyota badge. Still looks like there's a sensor and then some cutouts too. I'm not really sure how the aftermarket world is going to adjust if this is actual. Now I don't have any experience with the 5th gen 4Runner. My dad owns one, but we haven't done any mods to that, so I haven't looked up to see what the grille options are with that large of a piece. Now if we scroll over to this blue Tacoma now, this one here looks a lot more similar to the 23 that you see. The grille is a little bit narrower. We still have Toyota, there's a light bar, It doesn't look like there's a sensor in this picture, but that could be added, of course, later down the road. I don't see Toyota going away from their sensor. This truck here has adaptive cruise, and that's only going to get more popular, and the technology on that is only going to improve, I think. But in this picture, you can see some fog lights in the lower section with some bodywork running through the middle. Personally, I kind of think I like that design a little bit better, simply because it might be easier to swap out the grills if you are looking to do some modifications like that. And then I'll just throw up a picture here real quick of the EV Tacoma. So this was an actual pre-production unit at an auto show that was debuted. And you can see, at least in this picture, the headlights are very similar. The grille is solid because it's an EV. That's how the grille designs are. But you can see the lower section is more like the blue Tacoma that I just went over. You'll also notice too, in the blue Tacoma, the headlights are different from in the green Tacoma. So they are different from this style right here. I'm not sure which ones I like better. I think that the ones on the blue Tacoma just give it more of a sleek vibe. The ones on the green one make it look a little bit more beefy, like it is a Tundra in a sense. And then there's a skid plate on one of them, not on the other. There's a skid plate on the Pro here, so I don't see them getting rid of the skid plate. And then hood scoop versus no hood scoop. So I feel like Toyota is going to leave the hood scoop. I don't have one on mine, so it's not going to be available on every model, at least from what we've seen on the 3rd generation Tacoma. And that's pretty much it for the front end. The fog lights are also different on both of these trucks. The green one, they look very similar to most of the Tacomas. The Pro has this aftermarket kit here. And then on the blue one, they are located within the grille. For the side design, at least from all of these renders, it to me looks even more like a Tundra, a lot more boxy than this 3rd generation. You can see all the crisper lines. Some of the differences with these renders versus this 3rd generation, the line that is behind that fender flare. So in these renders, it almost looks like it's more vertical. And I have 2 different pictures here. One has the bed with the bumper separate. The other one has everything as one piece. I really hope they keep this design because that makes it a lot easier to throw on an aftermarket bumper. However, on the Toyota 4Runner, you can still do a high clearance bumper, and that is not a separate piece. So that is all one. So it'll be interesting to see how they do that design. And aside from that, we do have the TRD Pro badge stamped in the side. From the renders that I've seen, they have the badge like the older TRD Pros. I really hope they do away with that badge because after seeing this, I think that is a much nicer design. And I have also noticed as well, maybe the rear top here is going to be a little bit more of a point design rather than rounded. You'll see that later when I hop inside and talk about the rear backseat headroom. And then as far as the wheels and tires and suspension goes, this TRD Pro has a set of 16-inch wheels. Toyota usually uses a 16 or a 17-inch wheel. So we'll see the next design that they come out with for the 4th gen. Maybe they can do a different tire setup for the Pro, and then for the other trim levels, kind of what they've been doing in the past. For the suspension, we're not sure yet. I'm gonna talk about that here in just a second. And last up for the rear end, from the renders that I've seen, I have only seen Tacoma stamped right in the middle. So I'm not sure what they're going to do as far as the badging goes, depending on the trim level that you're going with. I'm assuming we'll see kind of a similar setup for the release handle, backup camera, and then with the bumper, it just depends again on if they have a separate bumper or that's incorporated, how they are going to do that. We have the tow hitch, of course, so we won't hopefully lose any of those towing capabilities. And then from the renders I've seen as well, taillights are a little bit different of a design to match that boxy style that we think is coming for the 4th gen. As we work our way to the interior now for the 4th generation Toyota Tacoma, with this image that you see right now, this looks like the all-new Toyota Tundra. Now that screen, the screen in the Tundra, the larger option, is about 14 inches. I honestly don't see the room for that size screen in this small of a vehicle. I believe that there could be an 8-inch screen, which is slightly larger than the one that is in this 3rd gen right now. But I just think that that 14-inch screen, if they do something like that, is just going to look like it's an add-on, it's stuck on. This is a small truck. It's not the biggest, obviously, compared to a Tundra, and I just don't see that unless they can get it farther in the dash maybe a little bit to kind of give you some space. I don't think that's going to look good in my opinion. The rest of this dash interior, steering wheel looks nice. Looks like it's from the Tundra. We have a new shifter design, some toggle switches here and there, which should be hopefully maybe similar as far as having the sliding rear glass. Maybe it'll have the sliding glass like on the Tundra, go up and down versus the small one that goes side to side. I would be ecstatic to see a glass that lowers just like on the 4Runner 2 for the Tacoma. That's something that I kind of wanted to install myself, but I know it was going to take way too much time and money to put that on the Tacoma. So maybe they will put that into this smaller size truck. It looks like we have all the climate adjustments, of course, like you would see. And then as far as the other buttons go, not really sure what to speculate for those. It's been changed over the years slightly. On this Tacoma here, we have traction control, the camera system, automatic for the headlights. There's a power outlet control, which is the 3-prong in the bed. Maybe we'll see that be carried over as well. And then in the center, all of your climates, parking sensors, there's the blind spot monitoring, electronically controlled transmission, even the wireless charging pad. So hopefully it retains all of the same technology. And then as far as the rest of the interior, not really sure what to expect for that. We're probably going to see leather seats like in the Pro that I'm in, and then maybe some different color options. You really don't have that many options in the Tacoma as far as the coloring. For the Pro, you get these black seats, red stitching, TRD Pro badge, or you can go with cloth seats, which I don't think is an option in the Pro, but in the other models, of course. And that's pretty much it. So there's not really any color options that you can go with for the interiors. Kind of the same with the rest of the Toyota lineup. There's not too many exciting color options, I'll say, for the interior. It's kind of just 2 interiors, and that's all you get. A few different colors, maybe in some of the other models available. At least for the Tacoma, I've only seen a handful of options. As I hop into the back seat now for the 3rd gen Tacoma, this is where I think a lot of people would like to see the Tacoma be improved. I'm 5'10". You can see I do have to duck right now in order to disappear, and then when I want to exit, I have to duck my head again. I have the back seat set right around my height, and so my knees are just up against the seat here. I have around 1 inch or so above my head, but it's a tight area. It's not the largest when you compare it to some of the other mid-size platforms. And so hopefully we can see a little bit more space incorporated into the back seat room. I have a 4-door just like this. I don't use it that often, but I do like the added space. If I have extra people, it's doable around town, some road trips if I have some smaller people in the back. But I like the use of space under the seat and the backrest too. And I mean, it's okay. If you're any taller or bigger than me, it's going to be a little bit crammed. So I think we're all hoping that it is a little bit bigger. Maybe the roofline can have a different design to it. I have seen some areas back here or some renders where there's a little bit different of a design. So maybe it can kind of come up to a point in the back here and just gives you a little bit more room. Maybe the seats can recline slightly compared to how they are right now. One thing that I would like to see is climate controls, even air vents for the backseat passengers. You get 2 cup holders. Some of the models have an auxiliary in the lower section, but that's it. When I have people in the back of my Tacoma, I have to adjust my front air vents to pass me if they're too hot or too cold, because it's different up front, of course, having the windshield. And so that's a little bit of an inconvenience for me because it could be too hot or too cold, but then they're too hot and too cold because there's nothing back here. So I think Toyota needs to improve with that aspect to make it a little bit more comfortable when you have backseat passengers. Let's talk about the bed options real quick. I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of changes for the bed on the Tacoma. Currently, you get a 5-foot bed and a 6-foot bed. This TRD Pro has the 5-foot bed. The 6-foot bed gives you that much more space up front, so it extends the fender flares farther away from the cab, and you get that extra foot right up there. As far as the rest of it goes, I really don't see any changes that need to be made. I will say one thing that is interesting to point out. We have the tie-down rails on both sides. My 2007 came with 3, my 2017 and this 2023 only came with 2. There's one missing on the front section of the bed. Toyota needs to reinstall that because I use that a lot for the motorcycles, dirt bikes, and various items that I throw in my bed. It's kind of interesting to see them cheap out in a sense and ditch that. But we have the power outlet, we have storage. It's missing storage on that side. My 17 has a massive compartment there, so it's weird to see that disappear. But I think something that could be cool, a lot of people don't really like the Honda Ridgeline, but the one thing that I love about that truck, it doesn't have a solid rear axle, it has solid rear axle, which is why it has that trunk space underneath the floor. If you open this up right now, the spare tire would be right there. We have the solid rear axle, so that's not going to work. But let's move on to the suspension right now because this kind of ties in with it. The new Tacoma is going to have the TNGA-F platform. This is a kind of a new technology with the design and platform for body-on-frame construction that's offered currently in the Tundra and the Sequoia. And that means that the Tacoma will lose the rear leaf springs for a coil spring. Now, if it goes coil spring, I think we'll still have the solid rear axle just like in a Jeep or a 4Runner. It would be interesting though to see if it went to an independent rear suspension, which I don't know if I'm a fan of, but if it did that, you could get that rear storage space and kind of have a trunk in the back of your Tacoma bed. Would be very interesting to see that. I don't think they're going to go away from that simply because of the towing and the capabilities that you get with this pickup truck. If you went to the independent rear like the Honda Ridgeline, it's still a good truck, but I think you'll have better off-roading capabilities with that solid rear. Now, the point of that new platform and losing the leaf springs is to give it a more comfortable on-road experience versus having the stiffer leaf springs. For me, I think the leaf springs are important because on my truck, I added the add-a-leaf to it and got a much higher payload capacity to put extra weight in the back, and my truck doesn't sag when I put even 1,000 pounds in it. It is very durable for situations like that versus the coil springs where you might have to have a little bit stiffer of a shock or a coil, and that doesn't mean that you can't do that, but I think that you definitely have some better weight distribution with the leaf springs. So it'll be interesting to see if they do go away from that and how the performance will affect. I know having that on-road performance is good because it is a daily driver in a sense, but to what extent without taking some of the capabilities away from the truck as far as towing and putting weight in the bed. So it'll be interesting to see. Obviously that can be done, but it'll just be interesting to see what are the advantages and disadvantages between them. So if the 24 is different and I can get my hands on a 23, maybe that'll be a good comparison if they are completely different. And so with that, let's talk about the off-roading performance. So the TRD Pro that I'm in right now has about 9.6 inches of ground clearance. It currently has a 1.5 inch lift up front, 1/2 inch in the rear over some of the other models, and we have a really good approach, breakover, and departure angle. Now, if you go back to the renderings that I showed for this TRD Pro, or what should be the TRD Pro, it doesn't look like they've really made any changes to the approach or departure angle. I did see one source talk about being able to stuff 33s or 35s into this truck. It looks like the fender arches are a little bit more enclosed and angled down like they're on the 4Runner, the Toyota 4Runner. On here, they're kind of open. I have 35s on my truck with a 3-inch lift, and that was with a new alignment and some trimming as well. So it will be interesting to see, along with these suspension changes that I've mentioned, if the truck will be just as capable to put 33s, 35s. Some people are crazy enough to stuff 37s onto a Tacoma. So it'll be interesting to see. I'm not sure if there's going to be any suspension changes up front. Maybe they can work on some of the angles where the body cab or the body mount chop is, so we don't have to do that cut when we put on larger tires. So let's move on now to some of the engine options that can or might be available for this 4th gen Tacoma. Let's start off with a 4-cylinder, a 2.4 liter inline 4-cylinder with 265 horsepower, 309 pound-feet of torque. Now, the 4-cylinder is not new for the Tacoma. I just don't know how popular it is Personally, I would not buy a 4-cylinder for a pickup truck because in my eyes, you're buying a pickup truck to be capable to tow, to haul some items. If you just need a truck, maybe you have a power washing company, you know, you have some items where you need the bed versus an enclosed SUV and you don't really care about the engine, I could see that being beneficial for situations like that. I couldn't do it. So that is an engine option. If that's something that you want to go for, it could be an engine option. The V6 should hopefully still maybe be retained. We have the 3.5 liter V6 right here. It's 275 horsepower, 265 pound-feet of torque. There might also be, which is already in production, a 2.4 liter inline 4-cylinder hybrid. This is currently in the Lexus RC 500H, and it has 366 horsepower, 406 pound-feet of torque. That would be pretty impressive for this Tacoma. This weighs right around 4,400 pounds or so. So that could give this the extra boost that it needs to almost be like a Ranger Raptor, which is not in the US yet. We could have maybe a Tacoma version of that, which would be pretty cool to see. And then the last engine option, a turbo hybrid. So that would only be exclusive from what I've seen with the TRD Pro model. I don't have any horsepower or torque numbers on that, but it could be higher than the 2.4 liter 4-cylinder hybrid. Just add a turbo to it and get maybe 400 horsepower out of it. Be pretty interesting to see. Personally, for me, I don't really use power like that in a truck, but I think it'd be awesome to see. Now, as far as reliability goes with these engines, having the turbos and the hybrid system, I was able to look up the all-new Toyota Tundra does have a hybrid option. It has the twin turbo hybrid option as well. There were some kinks and issues with the turbos and the manifolds in some of the earlier models, and I believe Toyota has since then fixed that issue, and I don't really hopefully see that being a reoccurring issue. And so some of the issues that they may have, like every other company who have some bugs here and there, hopefully they can get that bulletproof, put it into the 4th gen, and we'll have no issues. So it would be nice to see that some of these additional engine options, maybe to improve in gas mileage as well, improve in the power output, and improve in the towing capabilities too. And then along with the engine is the transmission. So for the 3rd generation Toyota Tacoma, you got a 6-speed automatic. You also got a 6-speed manual. Now the 6-speed automatic does have some issues as far as gear hunting and things like that. If you re-gear the truck, you don't have any issues, so those disappear, of course. But that's something that you have to do in addition to buying a brand new vehicle. Or you go with the 6-speed manual and you control all of the gears yourself. Now, from speculation with the 4th gen Tacoma, the manual might sadly go away. We might be looking at a 10-speed automatic transmission across all of the different trim levels and all of the different engines available for those models. I don't know how I feel about that. I've been in the manual Tacoma. I personally like manual sports cars better. I do not like the manual in the Tacoma. To me, it's just very sluggish feeling, and when you compare it to my manual R8, obviously there's no comparison to that, but that's what I'm used to. I like the performance of shifting in sports cars like that. The Tacoma, I'm not a fan of it. I'd rather have my automatic Tacoma and my manual sports car, and I don't know. I think it's cool, don't get me wrong. I love saving the manuals, and I do like that Toyota even offered it for this 2023 Pro. You can still get a 6-speed manual. In the 4th gen, we might see that go away, and unfortunately, people in society just don't know how to drive manuals. It's a good anti-theft device because of that reason, but I believe or think that manuals could possibly make people pay attention more to driving versus you know, being in an automatic, which is a whole separate topic. But people are starting to go away from the manual, and they're not starting to. It's been a while now, but it would be cool to see Toyota offer a manual for people who still want it, maybe just a special order for that, and keep the manual that they have, of course, because you really don't need too many changes, maybe from engine to transmission, of course. Different engines, newer engines, they might have some different mating to do there. But from what we've seen, just a 10-speed automatic, which I do think will be much better than the 6-speed automatic, having those extra gears. We've seen the 10-speed in Fords, and I think they've had some issues even with gear hunting too, just having too many gears to choose from. And so that'll be interesting. We'll see if Toyota can get it right after the 6-speed, go with the 10-speed, and see if they can get the gearing ratios right to make that a reliable transmission option, or the only option. And so last up, let's go over the potential pricing for the 4th generation Tacoma. For the 3rd gen, these start right around $29,000. We have the SR, the SR5, the TRD Sport, the TRD Off-Road, the Limited, and the TRD Pro. Now for the 4th generation, pricing is probably going to be increased like every other manufacturer every single year. There's more costs involved in the vehicle, there's more technology, more features, inflation. Pricing is just going to go up. So for the 23 TRD Pro behind me, this is the top trim level for the 3rd gen, has a starting MSRP right around $45,000. So let's say they have a TRD Pro for the 4th gen, it might cost $48,000, $50,000. Hopefully the Tacomas don't cross 50 grand, but based on this, it probably will. Now also for the 4th generation, there's speculation that there's going to be an additional trim level. It's going to be called the Trail Hunter. I think that's going to be above the TRD Pro. This is already an amazing truck with crawl control, the lift kit, the upper control arms, suspension. It's already a pretty sweet truck. We go with a Trail Hunter edition now, probably gonna be the one that breaks 50 grand, and who knows the technology features that that truck will have to offer. And hopefully for the starting MSRP right around $29,000 currently, maybe that's 31, 32, maybe not much more. It's still, of course, an increase in price, but you'll still be able to get into a Tacoma at a relatively affordable cost. When I bought my 2017 TRD Off-Road brand new, that was $33,000 out the door. So if I go with a TRD Off-Road again, if that's something that's available, I'm probably looking closer to 40 grand, 37, 38. And I'm gonna bite the bullet because I want the 4th gen. I really can't wait for this truck to come out to see what it has to offer and showcase you guys every part that I can think of, just like I'm doing or have done on my 3rd gen Tacoma. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's video going over some of the information that we know for the 4th gen Tacoma, and hopefully it comes out soon and we can start driving them. Hopefully I can get some access to one to really give you guys all of the greater details with the new truck compared to the outgoing 3rd generation Tacoma. So if you enjoyed today's video, give it a huge thumbs up, smash that subscribe button so you don't miss out on our daily uploads, as well as more info to come on this 4th gen Tacoma, and I will see you all in the next video.